So case management. I think that Bob and I have been, I would say, remiss sometimes with our cases in making them in our books and making them seem so simple. You know, in other words, that when you get the right remedy, it just seems like somebody is all well. And with Asperger syndrome, I talked to a couple of parents of Asperger children during the break, and that they had discouragement, that they didn't see really rapid, impressive responses with their children. And so I think that I need to emphasize over and over again, this is a process. And even with the most wonderful remedy in the world, or remedies in the world, it's going to be a process. And it's almost insulting in a certain way to parents of Asperger children to make it sound like it's going to be some overnight success. So I think we need to be aware of that. In case taking, I want to go back for a few minutes. I was talking with Hannah from Egypt, who was in our practice a couple of years ago for 4 months. And she reminded me that I probably hadn't emphasized enough how challenging it can be sometimes to take these cases. And we may have our best intentions as far as the sophisticated methods that we use, be it the sensation method or Judyth's method or whatever it may be. But I must emphasize flexibility. I did an interview yesterday, and I was asked what the secret was to having success with children with ADHD. There's no secret. There's no one secret. And I've been in practice for almost 30 years, and you have to realize that we didn't have these methods, like the sensation method 30 years ago. When I first went to study with Rajan in 1993, it was completely new. And we literally threw out practically everything we had learned before about homeopathy and started over. And so I think those of you who are more recent in your practice, you're lucky, because the scope and the breadth and the depth of all of the aspects of homeopathic training, the case-taking and the remedies, I mean, that was just not available before. So just remember flexibility. If you don't get there one way, you'll get there another way. And what's most important is just to be fully present with your patient, with the children. Okay? And if you have that intention, you will in some way or another be able to help them. So as far as case management, because one aspect is of case taking, we've talked about to some degree, but then over the years managing these cases. So patience is really important. Patience with the patients and patience with yourself. And to realize that sensations, some of these children with Asperger syndrome are incredibly verbose. They're really engaging, and they can give you a great case verbally. And other children are not like that at all. And it will seem like really a struggle no matter what method that you use. So just stick with it. And especially children, the last case I'm going to be presenting is not an Asperger case, it's an autism case. And I know when I first faced autism cases in my practice, I was reluctant to take on some of the cases. And I thought, oh, maybe I can just refer them to someone else, because if the child is nonverbal, and how much am I really going to be able to help? And parents are really counting on you to help. And so even if you don't think you can, just do whatever is possible. And even these parents are grateful, especially children lower on the autism spectrum, for whatever changes there are, even though it may seem like a small change to you. Because you can see in the long run, I'm presenting cases that I've seen for many, many years. And Hannah was saying she had seen 2 years ago the case of the young man who just went to college. And she said even 2 years ago, he didn't seem nearly like he did in the video. So please be patient. So these children are very unique, and they may equally need really unusual remedies. Arsenicum, sulphuratum, flavum, I don't know if I'll ever give that again in my practice, but it's benefited one of the most odd kids that I've ever seen. Okay? So it may be remedies you've never prescribed. It may be remedies that haven't been proved. As you can see with Divya's method, there's a lot of remedies that come up, source material that comes up, that doesn't even exist as a remedy. And it can be made into remedies. I've done that a number of times. So that is a possibility. Seeing treatment breakthroughs when you least expect them. It was really beautiful when, after working with that child for years, the Oenanthe prescription was so clear. Because it happens when you're not expecting it, the whole issue of being unexpected. But I had seen that child for years, many, many times. And somehow he was open at that time to, he was so clearly in his state. So you never know when that's going to happen. And Rajan always says, just don't worry, it will. The state will emerge. The state will really reveal itself. Okay? Don't be afraid to change to a totally different remedy. If the remedy that you're giving is working, that's great. But with the Oenanthe case, I'd never even thought of that family before, much less that remedy. And yet it was really clear, and he was so much in the state. So don't be afraid to give her whatever is coming up. I have seen, and that wasn't the only case that I presented, were children who need really unusual remedies as they get better and are seen less frequently, and their state isn't nearly as intense. They may go on, I've seen this more than once, where they just go on to need something like sulfur, which is just a regular remedy, and they're pretty healthy, and they just don't need anything much more than that. Okay?